Yeah, 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 yeah. I jam my home, my pride, my pain. I'm on Niger, we still dey pray. Hey. Them promise light, we still dey talk. Oh. The talk say change, but it still be talk. Oh. Every 4 years, not the same old story. Them they chop life, we dey beg for glory. Them drive Benz, we dey trek for road. Then they abroad, we dey find our boat. Mama they cry, we can no go school. Still them they dance for campaign too. Who go save Nigeria?
Prince Ben Etiaba, and today the world is a global village, and I'm speaking from Enugu. I welcome all of us to this platform, and just in case, I need to remind you of what AfrikaFora represents. It is an organization that works to promote African culture, history, innovation globally. It aims to place Africa and Africans at the center of the long overdue conversation around changing the narratives. AfrikaFora is committed to actively participate and facilitate the construction of new relationships between Africans, the world, particularly Europe and France, being a part of Europe. The AfrikaFora events promote Black and African successes, innovations, and inventions. And their conferences bring together experts, as we're witnessing today, artists, policymakers to partake actively in rebuilding this relationship between Africa and its partners. The AfrikaFora's Nigeria Week is an annual event. Indeed, this is the third one. It pushes for a safe, hopeful, and prosperous Africa. And Nigeria Week pushes for, amongst other things, peace and unity amongst Nigerians, as well as creating Nigeria's creative economy and cultural heritage. This is the third edition of AfrikaFora Nigeria Week, and the theme today and for 2025 is Nigeria, the African dream waiting to happen. The topic is the governance question, why good leadership is Nigeria's greatest missing link. This event invites the speakers to explore Nigeria's potential as Africa's moral, economic, and cultural powerhouse, and what must be done to make this dream a reality. You're most welcome to this year's Nigeria Week. And as we take off, usually we'll start our events with a libation and the breaking of kola nut. And we know what kola represents to all of us in Nigeria. It is largely grown in the north. No, actually, it is not largely grown. It is grown in the north, but it's largely grown in the southwest. Mostly consumed in the north, but most celebrated in the east or southeast. And today, it is my honor and privilege to kick off Nigeria Week with breaking of the kola nut. We have some of it here. And this is done in Igbo language, if it's an Igbo man doing it. And so please permit me to do this in Igbo. I'll be very brief. Ndị be anyị si onye wetara ọjị wetara ndụ. Ekpere anyị na-ekpe bụ ka ife anyị ekwute amịta mkpụrụ, maka na ife ga-abara obodo anyị bụ Naijiria uru. Balụ ndị ugwu, ụmụnne anyị nọ na Southwest, anyị nọ na Southeast uru. Ka eme ka anyị nwee ijikọta aka ọnụ wee maa na unity bụ our strength, and there's strength in diversity. Ndị be anyị ekene m unu. Daalụnụ. For those who may not have had the privilege of hearing what I have said in breaking the kola, I've prayed to the gods to ensure that peace continues to reign in Nigeria and that unity continues to be our strength, and that we tap in and leverage on our diversity to achieve a greater potential for our great nation. And along with this will come the libation, because we have to call on our forefathers, and this is a good one to use for it. It is the Johnny Walker blue level, so it's not for tiny thoughts. Biko no gọwa ka obodo anyị bụ Nigeria dị mma n'ife Jesus Christ bụ onye nwe anyị. Amen.
Amen.
Again, for those that may not have heard what I said, I have prayed to the gods to ensure that what was said during the breaking of the collar holds forth. And with this session and this event kicks off. And it will be my honor to invite the patron of AfrikaFora to give us his opening remarks. But before he does, I want to tell you about this great man, Collins Mweke. He is the honorable patron of the AfrikaFora. He is a senior consultant on international trade and a researcher on economic diplomacy. Mweke was the first naturalized Belgian to be elected to political office in West Flanders. He retired from active politics in December 2024 after serving 3 consecutive terms as councillor at Ostend City Council. He is a former chief executive and chairman of Nigerians in Diaspora, Europe. Mweke has been active in consultancy and advocacy in the field of socio-economic development for Nigeria and for Africa in general. He is a fellow of both the Chartered Institute of Public Management of Nigeria and the Institute of Management Consultants. A 2014 awardee of a doctorate degree in governance, honoris causa, Mweke is also a distinguished fellow of the International Association of Research Scholars and Administrators, where he serves in its governing council. Quite a rich pedigree. Our patron, once again, it's my honor and privilege to welcome you to this platform, and let us hear from you. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Chief Etiaba. You see, I like to come in at the time that I've been invited to come in because you have so beautifully set the stage. You have established the protocol, and so mine becomes a very easy task. Now, something else that you have done that has, reduced the burden on me as a patron of the AfrikaFora is that you have done a very copious introduction of not just the AfrikaFora, but the reason that we are gathered here. And so I thank you so very much for that. I will simply add that it is very obvious that AfrikaFora, the AfrikaFora being in its 3rd edition, is something that has come to stay. It is not a one-night stand. And I mean, just look at the parade of eminent Nigerians that we have managed to attract on this 3rd edition. And just because we intend to keep it as, simple and as straightforward as possible, we've had to do a very, very careful selection of the few individuals that have spoken. And so on that note, I want to congratulate each and every one of the few speakers that we have. We don't take for granted your time, but also your expertise. Thank you so very much for making this time for Nigeria. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished speakers, esteemed participants, fellow Africans, and friends of Africa, good day to one and all as you join us across global time zones. And that is what the world has become. Chief Tiaba made a reference to that earlier on. The world is now a global village. As patron of the AfrikaFora, it is my honor to welcome you to Nigeria Week 2025. This week is not just about a country, but about an idea. It is a dream and a responsibility. As I stand before you, not only as patron, but as someone who has journeyed through 60 years of life, 40 years of career, and the privilege of mentoring many, I want to simply say that it is a privilege to be here and to be addressing you. Now, as I do this, I am reminded that legacy is not measured by the titles we collect, but by the lives that we touch and the futures we help to shape. At 60, I see that true impact is not what we leave behind, but who we lived as we journey forward. Our theme for this year is not a coincidence, not a happenstance. The theme is Nigeria, the African dream waiting to happen. That theme is both a celebration and a challenge. It reminds us that Nigeria is not just a nation state on the western flank of Africa. Nigeria is a continental experiment in scale, in diversity, in resilience, and also in possibilities. Our menu today includes two musical interludes. Crystal made reference to that at the initial stage. You will be served in the course of the day. In them, you will live the glamour, but also the grandeur of Nigeria. The interludes depict a land of over 220 million people, unmatched intellectual capital, cultural dominance from Nollywood to Afrobeats, but more than that, is an army of diaspora, like some of you here present today, remitting more than the nation earns from oil. Nigeria has all the ingredients to be Africa's moral compass, economic engine, and cultural lighthouse. And yet, that dream of the Nigeria that we desire continues to wait. The dream waits because potential is not the same as progress. The dream waits because talent without structure becomes really frustrating. It waits because a people cannot truly rise if leadership keeps them crawling. That is why today's sub-theme as well goes straight to the heart of the matter. And that sub-theme is the governance question. Why good leadership is Nigeria's greatest missing link. We are not short of ideas or experts. Some of you are here today as one of such experts, or some of the experts that Nigeria is blessed with. We are not short of blueprints either. We are short of governance that works. We have produced genesis, but not systems. We have mastered survival, but not transformation. Nigeria's tragedy is not lack of capacity. We have those in abundance. It is the misplacement of capacity itself. But here's the good news. And, you know, this is the part that I like to speak so very fervently about. The missing link is a fixable link. Now, the diaspora dimension is something we need to, take a closer look at. And here, the role of the diaspora becomes central. The AfrikaFora itself, a living example, a diaspora-initiated platform activated by the conviction of an African woman, Madam Wilfred Oloako Gayat, powered by Africans abroad, who have refused to be distant observers of the continent's future. Across the world, the diaspora is no longer just sending remittances. It is sending back knowledge. It is sending back networks, technology, investment, capital, and perhaps most crucially, a renewed civic imagination. This is why my forthcoming book, Economic Diplomacy of the Diaspora, argues that the diaspora is not a footnote to African development. It is a strategic actor in Africa's rebirth. When harnessed, the diaspora becomes not just a resource, but a force multiplier for governance reform, private sector expansion, and global rebranding of the African story. Now, the Nigeria Week is not a talk shop. It is a workshop disguised as a seminar. It is a village square of thinkers and doers. It is where policy meets people, where diaspora meets homeland, where critique meets action. The world has enough conferences that diagnose Africa's problems. Here in Africa, on the AfrikaFora, we're not going to do that. And what the AfrikaFora insists on are conversations that end with commitments, not simply comments. So, ladies and gentlemen, I invite you not as spectators, but as co-architects, not as critics of Nigeria, but as shareholders in the African idea, not as consumers of policy, but as makers of policy. Let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen, fixing Nigeria is not a Nigerian project. It is an African imperative. A stable, functional, and visionary Nigeria changes Africa's bargaining power globally. It unlocks continental trade. It strengthens the economic community of West African states, the ECOWAS. It fuels the creative economy. It deepens South-South diplomacy. It makes the African Union less of a club of presidents, or, like I often say, a club of tired old men, but more of a community of people. If Nigeria rises, Africa rises differently. If Nigeria falls, Africa bleeds quietly. So today, ladies and gentlemen, in concluding, we gather not to debate whether Nigeria can become the African dream. We gather to ask what we must do to make it so. Over the next couple of hours, you will hear from thought leaders, nation builders, reformers, and everyday citizens who refuse to allow Nigeria's potentials to remain a proverb. I urge you, listen, challenge, contribute, document, but more importantly, commit. Because the measure of this event will not be the brilliance of the speeches, but the boldness of the follow-up. As a grandfather and mentor, I have learned that the most enduring legacy is not a monument of stone, but a generation inspired by dream to build and to lead with courage and compassion. Let us make this year the year that the dream stops waiting. Let the dream start happening. So, on behalf of the AfrikaFora, I declare the Nigeria Week 2025 open, and I thank you so much for your attention, and I thank you for your presence.
Thank you very much, Honorable Patron, for that most wonderful roadmap to our discussions this evening. You've set the tone, you've given the pointers, the direction, and above all, I liked the line that this is not going to be a talk shop, but a workshop. Africa cannot actually work if Nigeria can't work. And I always also insist that the biggest problem we have in not just Nigeria, but Africa, is the leadership question. And I wonder, in a nation of over 200 million great minds, why we seem to be stumbling from one type of leadership to another one that not quite represent what we are yearning for. But this platform is not a rabble-rousing one. We're not here to make insightful comments, but we're here to be as honest as we can and to call the issues as they are, that we have problems with our leadership. And like Chinua Achebe said, in The Trouble with Nigeria, our issues can just be zeroed down to terrible leadership question. While the interlude was on, we welcomed Dr. Nwachukwu Anakwenze, who was supposed to break the cola and pour the libation. I don't know if it's on now. I'll give him a few minutes for a few remarks, since the cola has been dealt with by myself. I'm not as qualified as he is to break the cola, but I had to do it for the sake of time and for us to move on. He's a regent in Abadan, a very powerful Nigerian in diaspora. Dr. Anakwenze, can you hear me? Oh no. Okay, he doesn't seem to be able to hear me. He's online. Okay, he's actually muted, so it's possible, and I can't see him. His video is not on.
Can you hear me?
Oh no, I can hear you very well now. Yes, can you also please enable your video so we can see you? Thank you very much. You're a very powerful Nigerian in diaspora, so you know it adds a lot of color to what we're doing, that we're able to see you. Oh no, when we started, usually we had to start with color, and we were not quite sure where you were. Now we have you. The color is broken, the libation is done, but it will add quite a lot of gravitas to the event that we hear from you for 5 minutes. You have the floor. Oh no.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I've been traveling. I just came back from Nigeria with jet lag, but I'm here to be here. I've been working on these issues of bringing Nigeria together through democracy, which we seek, and freedom for Nigeria and the rest of Africa. We've always wanted a Nigeria where the various ethnic groups feel that they have a stake in the future of the country. We envision a Nigeria where leadership is based on merit, hard work, fairness, and accountability as a measure of national character. We envision a Nigeria where true sense of unity, in every sense of it, gives every Nigerian a sense of belonging and not marginalized, where the governed have trust in the governance and the governed truly believe they can vote and be voted for. We envision a Nigeria where, regardless of one's ethnic, religious background, they feel like they have a sense and part of the equation. We envision a Nigeria where the various ethnic groups feel and where ethnic diversity is seen as strength and asset, harnessed and celebrated as part of our rich heritage. We want a Nigeria where equity, fairness, justice will be the guiding principle for a just society. We want Nigeria where the majority's right is balanced with the right of the minorities. We believe in Nigeria that's based on competition and excellence, the hallmark of a great nation, not where mediocrity is put to the front like it's now, and that's why Nigeria is not doing well. But Nigerian people are very competitive by nature. Here in America, where there's openness and freedom, Nigerians compete and they get to the top 10% of America in academic, sports, and our job performance. We know we can do it, but we've had poor leadership. The worst of us have been in charge and marginalizing the ones that are brilliant. We're in a country where God have given us everything, which I will go into details a little bit on that, and we have failed God. We want a Nigeria where the North and South, Christian and Muslims, love each other. God said, love your neighbor as yourself. You do unto others what you want done for yourself. Not country that's based on tribalism and bigotry, which is what you have now. Someone gets into power, they appoint only members of their tribe to all the positions. You have 30 positions of ministers, 30 of them belong to one tribe or one religion. That's why we're not doing well. We all remember that Abraham is the father of Judaism, Christianity, Islam, African spirituality, Chukwu Abiyama. We all have the same God. Why are we killing each other? Killing ourselves to take somebody's land, killing ourselves to force your religion of somebody else. While the rest of the world is moving on artificial intelligence, we're busy perfecting stealing and thievery. That is very shameful. Nigeria is like a country where it's like a bus where the two drivers are thieves and the conductors are thieves, half of the passengers are thieves. And they take the passengers to no man's land and rob them to death. Africa needs Nigeria very bad as the leader, as the first son. But we are not serious. Even countries like Ghana is more serious than Nigerians, and countries like Ethiopia, they are more serious than us. For us, if you give any Nigerian job, they're busy putting their family members and their friends in position. We used to have Nigerian Airways, it failed. You used to have Nigerian shipping, it failed. Nigerian refineries, a failure. Nigerian iron and steel, it's a failure. All this is working in other countries, but us, it's a failure. We used to have Alomaco, it failed. Nigerian gas, failed. Everything failed. That's why I called for us to move to private sectors to run things, because all those government run this and government run that, they're just putting in their family members with no education. And the person putting them have no education. And all they know is their tribe and religion, and they're calling other people infidels and things like that. It's not too late for us. That's why I'm still talking to you. Nigeria should be one of the top countries, if it's well run, at least one of the top 6 countries in the world, because we have the brain, our children have the brain to do it. Look, God gave us human, mineral, natural resources. We have all kinds of food: rice, banana, plantain, platinum, wheat, cassava, millet, ginger, garlic, palm oil, groundnut, palm wine, animals, fish, chicken, pig, goats. We have everything. We're blessed with minerals like iron, tin, gold, copper, silver, diamond, bauxite, and aluminum. You know the latest thing, and we have rain around the year and gas around the year that can supply us with what we need. You know, most of the world, they're talking about rare earth material. We have it in Nigeria. The Chinese comes and they carry containers load of sand, 100, 200. What do you think they're carrying? They're carrying sand to China. That's our raw material, which we are too stupid to know. And then they're bragging that Chinese have most of the raw materials, rare earth materials, and America is looking for the same thing. That's what they used to make computers and all the latest technology. That's what they use. We have it. We have everything that it takes. We should be a world power and a paradise, but we are led by Mumu people. So anyway, I'll stop here. I have a whole lot to say, but let me stop here for now.
Oh, no, thank you so much. I am happy that we've been able to hear from you, albeit later than we thought, but still the same powerful delivery that we expected. And thank you for your time. And I hope you stay with us through the course of the program because we'll be taking some concluding moments from you too. I will now call on our next speaker. She's a lady that I know quite a bit about, a lady that I respect, and a lady that I know is very busy, though retired. So her being here on this platform with us is a pleasure indeed. She is none other than Dame Elizabeth Oyibo Agu, MNI. She is a woman and a youth advocate and a former director of CBN, as you heard earlier, Central Bank of Nigeria, and a pioneer bank controller, branch controller of CBN in Asaba, Delta State. Beyond her banking career, Mrs. Agu is an active lady in civic and women's initiatives. She is presently the Vice President, Women and Youth, of the 9th Mile Chamber of Commerce. She is a board member of the 5th Microfinance Bank, an alumna of executive education at Harvard and Stanford universities. Oyibo Agu's leadership expertise in finance and public service make her a respected figure in both institutional and community circles in Nigeria. Madam, I'm delighted to yield the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I don't know about all of you, but me, I like Nigeria. Everything we do for Nigeria. Let's join hands and make Nigeria great. Thank you. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends of Africa, especially the AfrikaFora, a space where Africa and inadvertently Nigeria is not pitied, but imagined, where we are not explained, but designed. Listen, when I got this topic, I was so excited because our problem, the missing link, is governance. I've always believed in that. So I started my research. While I was doing research, I came across this concept called Mekaria ethic. Having been a student of American politics and government, I know that America and Europe were driven by the Protestant ethic. So I now said, wonderful. I'm going to wrap my thoughts around this Mekaria ethic. It's like the Ubuntu in South Africa. It's about time we have a rallying call, like an ethic. I mean, do you imagine America is one of the most productive nations in the world because their forefathers, their ancestors were bequeathed with this Protestant ethic, and it has helped them throughout generations. So now, what is this Mekaria ethic? Mekaria, I got it from reading an article by Chidoka, Osita Chidoka. Osita was a man in Nigeria that was made corps marshal in those days by Obasanjo. And using data, he changed everything about about the corps marshal. Accidents went down, and anyway, he later became minister and stuff. But when I read that article, I'm like, this is the light in our tunnel. So come along with me on this journey. Let us look at this Mekaria ethic. Mekaria is a word from the Igbo language. It means to do better, purposeful excellence. Anything you are doing, let it be better. Wherever you are, make it better. It is Africa's answer to the American Protestant ethics, to the Japanese Kaizen. Japanese own is continuous improvement. Mekaria will become our moral software, a call to curiosity, to discipline and purpose. My dearest Nigerians and beloved Africa, we have explained our failures enough. It is time to execute our possibilities. In this single phrase, Mekaria, lies the soul of the African dream and inadvertently Nigeria. Because when you are the most populous Black nation in the whole world, our destiny is tied to Africa, even to Blacks everywhere, to Black Americans. Imagine if Nigeria did good. All Blacks in Brazil, in Guyana, they will have a home. How are we going to do this? Mekaria, do better. Mr. Chidoka mentioned two very important concepts: a culture that emphasizes alibi and a culture that emphasizes agency. But first, let me go back to the governance question. It is a crisis of doing that we're having, my dear people. When Onowu was speaking, my mind went to Mekaria. I'm like, imagine if instead of every regime, every leadership we have saying, oh, it was these last people that made us do this. It was these last people that made us this. Instead, they face the problems head on to find solutions, even if the credit will not come to them. So, we explain our poverty through history. Look at us. Colonialism, any excuse we can lay our hands on, and then our this unity through diversity. While every other nation is celebrating diversity, look at what diversity brings to the table. Look at America. America is not even perfect. But look at what they are doing with all the diverse people they have instead of attacking them and making excuses. Explaining our failures through faith. Oh, now God do amo. Now so God did it. No, it's not God. It's you. But nations do not rise by explaining their problems. They rise by confronting them, even at individual level. You will never move forward if you continue explaining your failures instead of confronting them. So, my dear people, that is why the governance question is not about what we lack. I'm so glad that a lot of people have been emphasizing Nigerians are the smartest. If you go to Harvard, Nigerians are the most in number in terms of people that are not Americans. So our problem is not lack. It is about what we refuse to improve. Follow me on this. It is not a crisis of resources, but of responsibility. It is not power, my dear people. We have power. It is performance. What are we doing with the power given to us? So Mekaria invites us to leave behind the culture of alibi, the habit of perfecting the art of explaining failure. Remember those your schoolmates. Whenever they don't pass any paper, they are busy explaining. I'm sure you can see where they are now. And then remember those of your schoolmates that after every exam, they look at what they did not do well and do it better. I'm sure they are doing better now. So Nigeria needs to move from excuse to execution. Our leaders need to move from speeches to systems. And they need to build legacies, build institutions, not individuals. That is the kind of leadership Nigeria needs. Not the one that explains why things can't work, but the ones that find a way to make them work. Good governance at its heart is simply Mekaria in motion. The determination to make each policy, each institution, each generation better than the one before. Today, Nigeria is standing at a crossroad. We can continue recycling excuses, my dearest people, or we can design our reality. It is possible. The Mekaria ethic challenges every Nigerian in government, in diaspora, to become a reformer in their own space. Don't change the world, change your corner. To be curious enough to ask, why not? Disciplined enough to stay the course, even when applause fades. And my dear people, purposeful enough to lead with integrity, not ego. So, when we ask, why is good leadership Nigerians missing link? The answer lies in our mindset. We have treated leadership as a title, not as a trust, not as stewardship. People become leaders for what they can get for themselves instead of what they can do for others. Mekaria asks us to flip that script, to see leadership as a duty to improve your environment, not as an opportunity to impress. It is leadership that measures outcomes, so not intentions. Oh, we intend to do this, we intend to do that. No, we need to see the outcomes. We want leadership that builds institutions that outlive the leader, that listens before it commands and serves before it rules. That is the leadership Nigeria needs to unlock the African dream. In conclusion, governance is not just about systems, it is about spirit. That is why when you go to developed countries, like they have what they call the American spirit. I'm sure they will have the French spirit and all that. We need an African spirit, a Nigerian spirit, a spirit that improves, a spirit that leaves anything given to it better than it met it, instead of explaining away failures. I thank you all.
Wow. Dame Elizabeth, that was a barnstorming paper, a wonderful performance. I loved the Mekaria spirit, and for those of us who wouldn't have known what the word Mekaria was, you explained it beautifully. Africa and Nigeria need to build strong institutions, not strong men. That's where we keep getting it wrong. And hopefully, one of these days, either by design or by accident, we will get there. But we'll keep talking. Like we say, this is not a talk shop. We want it to be a workshop. We want to see at some point the issues we're raising. And by the way, this is not rocket science. We're not the only ones harping on these issues. But hopefully, at some point, we'll get it right. May I please most respectfully ask all the speakers to be visible, please. If we can all switch on our videos, very important, because those taking part online, the participants, are actually excited about being on this platform, and they want to see us. In some ways, we are the stars. So please, can we honor them and respect their time, their data, by being visible? Thank you, Dame, once again. And I want to say Baoni to Prof. Oluwa Fumilayo Paramalam is the next speaker.
Alafia New.
I see Adupeo. I don't know if I'm getting it right. Only enough, my mother is Dame Veggie Tiaba. Some of you may know her. And she speaks quite a number of languages fluently, including Hausa. But I'm not sure it was Hausa you spoke. I think it was more Yoruba than Hausa you spoke. But Prof is a gender justice activist and policy specialist. She is the former director of studies at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, of which she's also a member. She is a professor of gender and development and also a development consultant. She is chairperson of African Women's Leadership Network Nigeria and member Presidential High-Level Advisory Committee on Women's Economic Empowerment and Gender Equality in Nigeria. Prof is a national coordinator of Christian Women for Excellence and Empowerment in Nigerian society. In 2024, she was named among 100 leading women on Nigeria Women Annual List. She is an alumna of Harvard University, JFK School of Government, and has produced 85 publications and conference papers, and is a fellow of professional bodies and member of professional bodies too, and organizational boards. Prof, it is my privilege to have this floor yielded to you. Thank you, madam. And let me please remind all of us to please, Prof, sorry to interrupt you. Can I please once again remind all the speakers to be visible? Please most kindly switch on your videos, but you can mute, not you can. Please mute the mics, but leave the videos on. Thank you. Prof, I'm so sorry to have interrupted you.
No problem at all. I want to thank you most kindly for that very warm introduction. I also want to thank the organizers of AfrikaFora for this beautiful and thought-provoking event. I'm really happy to be here to talk on a matter that is of deep concern to my heart. I share the optimism of the last speaker, and in fact, I think all the speakers so far, on the fact that Nigeria is a dream waiting to happen, and that Nigeria has what it takes for this dream to come true. I just got back from Kigali a few days ago, and around the table, there were Africans from every part of the continent. And around the table, there was this general consensus that Africa is waiting for Nigeria to get its act together. And that there is a deep hope, a profound hope in the psyche, not just of Nigerians, but of Africans in general, that one day Nigeria will lead the way to the rebirth and revitalization of African civilization. And that's why we are here today. But we know that this dream waiting to happen is not going to happen by chance. It's not going to happen without hard work marked by intentionality in building, establishing, and strengthening a credible governance framework. And governance itself doesn't just happen. It is shaped by leadership. And that is where we have that nexus between leadership and governance, because governance is the framework with which leadership can make decisions that have an impact on the lives, on the context of the people. So I'm really glad that the last speaker was able to speak in broad terms about what we need in terms of where we need to go. I want to narrow it down to specific terms, to speak about specific areas of intentional action where we need to have high impact. Some of them are low-hanging fruits, some of them not so low, but necessary notwithstanding. So let me begin with an underlying assumption. And this is often left off the table of discussion when we talk about governance and leadership. And it is about underlying worldview. We often forget that governance itself, the governance culture in any state, in any organization, is often shaped by the underlying worldview of the context, the historical or material context in which it exists. And so often that we've had some form of conversations around governance and leadership, we often forget that we have diverse, competing, contesting worldviews in our context that are often clashing and preventing us from moving forward. Nigeria has rich and diverse worldviews, some of them extremely positive, but many of them are rooted in traditional hierarchical and patriarchal structures that hinder democratic governance. And if we look at democracy as government of the people, by the people, for the people, we know that for us to have that kind of democratic governance that is fit for purpose, then certain things are necessary for us to get right. And let me begin with the ongoing constitutional review that we are having. There are some positive signs, but yet there are signs that even this particular ongoing review is only going to be a makeshift, a patchwork, and not the kind of comprehensive constitutional review that we require. Where and why do we need constitutional reform? First and foremost, our federal character principle is not fit for purpose. It's not working. The design and the desire of the founders of the Constitution was that in a country with such a rich cultural and religious diversity and gender diversity, I must add, we should have a situation where everybody, like Olowu said, feels as if they belong in the true sense of the word. It was Professor Alemika that once said that Nigerians are only citizens in their own local government. When they leave their local government, they become strangers. They become outsiders. They are no longer Nigerians. And this is one of the great tragedies of our constitution. So we need to overhaul our constitution in such a way that every citizen feels a sense of national identity and belonging, regardless of where they live, where they come from, what they look like. So this constitutional review calls for things like the inclusion of the enshrinement of independent candidacy, proper electoral reform that ensures that ethnic and religious minorities are able to have voice and visibility wherever they live. I believe that when Nigerians feel as if they are people who belong in any and every part of Nigeria, we will get the best out of Nigerians. The second area is on the area of devolution of power to local government. Local governance is the fulcrum. It is the basic pillar of governance. We must get good governance right at the area of local government. The way the Constitution is set up right now, it is full of ambiguities with regard to financial autonomy, with regard to the participation and inclusion of different segments of the economy at the local government level. Every Nigerian either lives in or belongs to a local government. And yet, how many of us are actively involved in shaping decisions that affect us at the local government level? Very, very few. Oftentimes, when we talk of governance, we are thinking of the national level, the federal government and all of that, but we must come down to the grassroots and the grassroots framework of ensuring that Nigerians are actively and in a very informed manner involved in shaping their context, in shaping the decisions that affect them. The other area that I really want to bring to the fore is who becomes a leader. Olowu said it, and I think also our chairman said at the beginning, that the best of us are not getting through into the leadership space. Why is that? Leadership preparation, leadership development is an intentional, well thought out system. It doesn't happen by chance. So we need to begin to develop a system that right from primary school, secondary school, begins to identify, prepare, shape, and model leaders according to a good governance, value-based system. A kind of system that by the time people get into the leadership, they are prepared to lead. They are prepared and they understand leadership to be a sacred trust in which the leader is not there for their own sake, for their own selfish interests, but for the sake of the community, the society. That this issue of preparing leaders is so, fundamental to our discussion that it needs a whole different workshop on what kind of framework do we need to put in place to ensure that we develop leaders. The next thing I want to talk about is our patriarchal culture. The fact that to a large extent, 50% of the population of Nigeria is excluded from governance. Do we recognize that Nigeria, the giant of Africa, has the lowest level of female participation and representation in governance at 3.5, anyway, below 4%. This is way behind Rwanda, South Africa, Senegal, Sudan, Liberia, and virtually every other country on the continent. And yet we have no shortage of competent and capable women who can come side by side, African men, Nigerian men, to lead the country forward. We need to get this right. And this, again, is rooted in a patriarchal worldview that construes women as second-class citizens. And it is no different from our youth. Somebody talked about being led by old men. Many of our youth, most of our youth, who have talents, who have capacity, are being marginalized from government. And we need to have this entrenched in our constitution. For example, in Uganda, 10% of all parliamentary seats are reserved for young persons. But in Nigeria, we don't have a provision such as that, and we need to get there. People with disabilities, ethnic and religious minorities need to have a special protection clause in our constitution. Finally, I think it's really important that we overhaul our electoral system. The first past the post system that we have, in which we have the majority takes all, a zero-sum game, leaves so many people disenfranchised, so that people have become so apathetic to elections. Elections is just a formality. I believe that we need to have a brand new electoral system that ensures that we have independent candidacy, which was recommended by the Justice Wise Commission, mind you, that ensures that ethnic and religious minorities are protected and have voice, that ensures that there is a gender quota in recognition of our national gender policy, to ensure that the youth and people with disabilities also have representation. I believe with this broad-based approach to governance and leadership, we will be able to ensure that Nigeria governance culture becomes less toxic, participatory, inclusive, and developmental. This is the kind of governance framework that we need to produce a developmental state and not a transactional state. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Prof. I because of time, was almost tempted to cut in, but I couldn't because I was enjoying every word that you uttered. But most informative, devolution of powers, proportional representation, being intentional about our leadership. We know the things to do, but it's just that, we're being suffocated by our leaders, who are not actually leaders, but political businessmen who find themselves in office and milking it for all it's worth. Thank you. Thank you, Prof. I'll zoom in straight to Suraju Olanrewaju. He's a human rights and pro-democracy activist in Nigeria, a former student union leader, now a public speaker and commentator, with several local and international media appearances, whose areas of expertise include environmental justices, human empowerment, youth development, the rule of law, and human rights and transparency, as well as accountability. With a wealth of experience and exposure cutting across continental divides, Suraju is the chair of Council with Human and Environmental Development Agenda and chair of the National Civil Society Network Against Corruption in Nigeria. That's a very powerful, important body. He has pioneered and serves on the board and supported the creation of several civil society organizations, networks, coalitions in Nigeria and across Africa. Suraju has worked as a consultant and board member to several developmental agencies, international NGOs, law enforcement agencies, and intergovernmental agencies. Suraju, you have the floor. Can I please remind all the speakers to leave their videos on while I urge Suraju to keep it as concise as possible because we are now running behind schedule. Thank you, sir. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Chief, for this, and also thank you very much for the libation and then also the cultural opening. I want to salute all those behind the convening of this very important gathering, the AfrikaFora. I mean, this is a kind of thing that are more important, and I would want to also start on the note of that when we actually want to talk about the dreams, it is important to understand that dreams for Africa, actually, dreams are very important, and this is because we consider it as part of either a warning, a kind of also a guidance, that would come from sometimes others who would be of more cultural, would be from the ancestral. And for those who have been for Christians and Muslims, we want to look at it from the spiritual angle, that you get that for either the dreamer, the people around it, that's the relative or even the community. As much as we want to cherish dreams, there are also sometimes that you have to be bad dreams. And if care is not taken, the dreamer can actually remain in perpetual comatose. And if you want to look at it for Nigeria, we're moving from dreamer to a position of coma, that we're not really waking up from that dream. And we've actually been unfortunate that when you want to look at our past, it's been that is more better than our present. And that is not in any way indication of anyone who is in a dreaming position. Because if you want to look at it, I mean, I grew up in Lagos, and I schooled majority of, I can say even most of my academic life in Lagos. And I used to share this and also discuss this with many of my colleagues currently, that growing up and being in, even in public school that we go to, the public secondary primary school, we don't even understand who is an Igbo person. We might possibly just know the name. We never know who is coming from Anambra or Enugu or Abia or Ebonyi in the east. We can just know that, okay, this name is not Yoruba, and it doesn't matter. We go to each other's house to eat. We go to each other's house to even sleep. My best friend actually is happens to be somebody from Delta State with the name Onyemenam. I only know that is I don't even know if it's from Delta or from Anambra, and he sleeps in my house. I go to his house. The family knows me very well. He doesn't even speak Yoruba, but he speaks directly to my grandmother, who doesn't speak much of English, and they will communicate even when I'm not there. That is the kind of the level of relationship and harmony that was predating our current situation. And many of us are not here, and I'm sure, especially for those who are also old enough to also relish that experience. I know traveling to Ekiti and Ondo State, and as a young person with my father driving, we see where sellers will leave their wares by the road, and you're able to buy them, pay for whatever it is you are picking without cheating either in terms of the price or taking the one outside of what is actually been designed by the seller. These are the kind of things that we have as Africans, and I would say more even from you, but that you can, I mean, from Nigeria, that is being showcased in terms of integrity and trust. Unfortunately, we've allowed, like the chairman said, we've allowed the worst in our midst to actually be shown across the world as the best that are coming from Africa. And this is not a way that we would have that dream coming to fruition or reality. If you also want to look at it in terms of the cultural thing, unfortunately, it is so sad. As much as we are projecting, and we can see also the Afro music, not only just dominating the country, not only generating the resources and funds, it actually dominating Africa and in the world. I was in Italy in my hotel, and then just sleeping, and then I was disturbed from the music from outside, and these were just purely like I was listening to Afro music being played anywhere on the street of Nigeria. And these were the young Nigerian artists. And I had to ask the hotel, is there a party by an African or a Nigerian somewhere around? And they said, oh, no, that's the university. And these are students actually going to their nightclub. So the Italian, young people in an Italian university were playing music in their nightclub. And it is predominantly almost through playing several different African music from the continent. And these are the kind of dreams that are coming informally, not the one that are structured by our system. Where I get to want to have sometimes also challenges and differ from many of us is that we actually not only have allowed the worst, and I can say that, within us to be the showcase that people want to see and tell about us. And that is where you would see the hush puppies, most of the yahoos who would actually flaunt wealth without any sources or businesses. And unfortunately, is the fact that we also are complicit with many times our silence. Unfortunately, we also allow the politicians in our midst and also the beneficiaries of our mysteries to determine and dictate some of the narrative for us. So if we're talking about, just like Professor Miller said, Malam Miller said, Paramalam said, I want to agree many times on the need for us to do reforms in terms of law changes, but have been actually been challenged by the fact that we are not usually prepared for those changes in the law. And I'll give you the part of the examples. One of the concerns for me, and I remember starting when we engaged with the process and the political system from 1999, I was one of those who said the demand for us in terms of increasing the women participation in politics should not just be an isolated demand but it should be there. We have to also engage that it is not going to be women for women, but it has to be women of substance who will grow through the ranks and from also our own constituency. It is not sufficient for Obasanjo to have the daughter as a senator, and that is counted as a women representative in the politics. It is not sufficient to have the wife of Chief Aneni in politics, because they are just children and they are this same class taking advantage of our struggle, and the only thing we will end up with will have to be complete reversal of some of those gains, because they will be inadequately representing us within the system, to the extent that we won't find that kind of the necessary input within the system that we want. And that was what became some of our challenges. So in engaging with this system and the process, we must also at the same time ensure that we prepare ourselves when we're making, unfortunately, since 2023, that we have the oil subsidy removal. Many of us have talked about the devolution of power and also the resources going to the states. Many of the states are running now away from the federal allocation with billions of naira on monthly basis. And the lot of the people in the states have not changed up to today. You see the difference in the allocation that is going almost exponentially. You see the level of deprivation in the states that is also going down rather than improving. And that will happen almost to the local government if care is not taken, unfortunately, which is why many of the governors are challenging the federal government that those allocations should not go directly and states to the local government, but should go through the state government. So we have this very urgent responsibility that we need to also shape this narrative as much as we would want it. We can't continue with such a country where the level of human sacrifices and rituals for money and yahoo will be what you hear on daily basis in the Southwest. We can't sustain where what you have in the South, in the Northeast is about insurgency, Boko Haram, and the rest of them. And where you have in the Southeast, in the Northwest, you have the militancy, you have all these other criminals that are going after gold in those places, and also in the Southeast, that what we have is in the insecurity and kidnapping. And we will be talking about any positive dream coming from Nigeria. And we must actually start also from our homes. The leadership that we complain about are also products of our system. Many of them are from our houses. They are from our families. And unfortunately, part of the challenges is that many of our people are also very either tongue-in-cheek, either also making excuses. Like somebody said here, it is not only about just appointing people from your clan or from your constituency or from your tribe when you get into office. And I will shock you. For some of us that are also of Yoruba, we don't believe that the current president is appointing people from Yoruba extraction because it comes from Yoruba tribe. We strongly believe that these are people who are his business partners, his friends, and his former acolytes. Because when you look at the dominance of those people, they're either from Lagos or they're either the Ekiti, Ondo, or Ogun diaspora that are based in Lagos, or people who are working with him, or children of his friends. So this has been reduced gradually from even tribal concave of the appointment to business partners. And if we don't stand and allow against some of this, we will be faced with the challenge of also considering the space and continue to live in that coma that I talked about, thinking that we are dreaming and then hoping that we would move. So we have the dirty December that, is conveyed in Nigeria, and almost every diaspora in Nigeria are always looking forward to it. We're not taking advantage of it. Many of them are even looking at going to Ghana. We have African Americans looking for their roots. They can't feel safe in Nigeria. They go to Congo, they go to Ghana, and even Gambia. But for us, if we want to live that dream, I think we actually need to also throw, our hats in the ring and join issues with the leadership. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Suraj. You stopped just as I was about to intervene because of time. But thank you. You made some wonderful points. And those points need not be repeated because you spoke so eloquently about them. a lot of people are shouting Yorubas are dominating everywhere, but you've actually put the context right. It's actually not Yorubas dominating everywhere, but friends of a particular person dominating everywhere. So, but we need to get things done right. And, I also liked what you said about diversity, friendships across the Niger. I just came back from Dr. Kolade's funeral last week in Lagos. He was my mentor. I'm not a Yoruba guy, but he took me on board when I was in England and made sure he took me to the very top in England. So, there's so much we can do for one another rather than letting our leaders keep dividing us for political reasons. Anyway, the last speaker will be Hector. I'll call him very quickly. And Hector, please, if I may ask you to speak for maybe 5 minutes or less, because we've so much run out of time that we can hardly fit in questions and answers. And please get in your questions now so we can get straight to questions after Hector's speech. Hector is the editor-in-chief of Sweet Crude Reports Publications with a prolific career spanning various renowned newspapers such as Concord Newspaper, Business Day, the Vanguard, and with over 8,000 energy-related news, features, articles, and analysis to his credit, as well as published interviews in both local and international newspapers. An accomplished author, Mr. Iwikiogo has co-authored Nigeria Sweet Crude 2006, Make We Talk in 1998, Scarlatti Affair in 1995, and Nigeria Anomy in 2023, showcasing his diverse writing talents and deep industry knowledge. He is the convener of Nigerian Content Investment Forum in Houston, Texas. He has also been honored along with NCIF with a proclamation from the mayor of the city of Houston and a certificate of U.S. congressional recognition in appreciation of the efforts to promote investment and foster collaboration between the chief executive of Mount Spiral Nigeria Limited, an energy consulting and supply chain management company with years of experience in management of the image of high-profile corporate clients in Nigeria. Hector, you have the floor. Please, I do apologize to you that everybody has stolen your time and you have just 5 minutes or less. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, good evening, distinguished guests. I thank the AfrikaFora for inviting me. Esteemed colleagues, proud Nigerians and friends of Nigeria, I'm happy to be here. I thank you all for the opportunity. The theme of our gathering, Nigeria, the African Dream Waiting to Happen, is both beautiful and agonizing. It's a theme of immense hope, but it also contains a haunting question. What are we waiting for? Clearly, we are not waiting for our potential that we have in grotesque abundance. We are not waiting for our people whose genius and resilience light up the globe from Silicon Valley to Wimbledon. We are not waiting for resources. We are blessed beyond measure. So the question is, what are we waiting for? I propose to you today that we are waiting for one thing and one thing only. And that is the conscious, courageous, and consistent application of good leadership and governance. This is not just a missing link. It is the greatest missing link between the Nigeria we have and the Nigeria we richly deserve. Good leadership is critical to the growth and development of any society. And wherever there is a lack of it thereof, stagnation, strife, and chaos reigns. I propose to you today that we are waiting for one thing, and one thing only, like I said earlier. So let me take you on a journey. Let's call it the tale of two realities. One, the dream, Nigeria as Africa's inevitable powerhouse. Imagine a Nigeria where the Dangote refinery is not an exception but the rule, a symbol of a system that works, not a monument to one man's doggedness against a dysfunctional system. Our Nollywood isn't just a cultural phenomenon, but the engine of a multi-billion-dollar creative economy with global infrastructure and intellectual property dominance. Our youths aren't taking or risking everything on a desert trek or the Jackpot wave, but are the ones building the next OpenAI, the next SpaceX, right here in Lagos, Aba, Kano, Onitsha, or even Owerri. A Nigerian passport is a symbol of prestige, not a document of visa anxiety. This is not a fantasy. This is the logical endpoint of our latent potential. This is the African dream. But a dream, by definition, is unrealized. And the reason it remains unrealized is squarely in the realm of governance. Now let's talk about the bridge that is broken, how bad governance manifests. Good leadership is not about speeches. It is about building systems. Bad leadership, which we have endured in cycles, is the active dismantling of these systems. It manifests in three critical failures. The failure of institutions over individuals, we have built a culture that celebrates strong men, not strong institutions. When a police officer tells a terrified Adobe that their vehicle has a flat tire, it is not an isolated incident. It's a symptom of an institution that has zero accountability. When the NNPC Limited can spend billions on refinery turnarounds for decades with nothing to show for it, it reveals an institution that is not designed to succeed, but to serve a conduit for patronage. Good leadership builds institutions that work, regardless of who is in charge. Then we talk about the failure of vision over transaction. Our governance has been tragically transactional, not transformational. The political cycle is often about sharing the national cake, not baking a bigger one for the next generation. We manage poverty instead of creating wealth. We apply short-term fixes to deep structural cracks. A leader with vision does not see a 4-year tenure. They see a 25-year national development plan and relentlessly execute it, as we have seen in other nations that have transformed within a generation. Let's talk about the failure of consequence over impunity. This perhaps is the most corrosive failure in Nigeria. The rules are often too weak, while the powerful operate with impunity. When there are no consequences for corruption, for incompetence, for stealing the future of millions, it creates a moral vacuum. It tells the brightest and the best that playing by the rules is a fool's game. Good leadership is first and foremost about justice. It ensures that the law has a long arm and that everyone is held to the same standard. The blueprints. Now let's talk about making the dream real. So what must be done? How do we install this missing link? It requires a fundamental rewiring of our political and governance DNA. First, we must democratize data and insist on transparency. You cannot fix what you cannot see. We need a citizen-led movement that demands open data and everything, from the national budget to the daily production of crude oil. When a contract is awarded, we must know to whom, for how much, and for what deliverable. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. Second, we must constitute a government of the competent, not the connected. We must move from a system of political compensation to a meritocratic covenant. The person who manages our power sector must be a world-class energy expert, not a political loyalist. The person who oversees our security must be a proven strategist, not a bargaining chip. We must professionalize governance. Thirdly, we must empower the new constituency, the Nigerian citizen. The rise of social media and civic tech organizations has created a new powerful constituency, the informed citizen.
This is our greatest hope. We must support them, protect them, and amplify their voices. They are the ultimate accountability mechanism, the modern-day check and balance on executive excesses. I tell you, the waiting is over. The African dream is not waiting to happen to us. It is waiting for us to make it happen. And making it happen requires us to be brutally honest. The bridge between our potential and our reality is governance, and that bridge is currently broken. But here's the good news. A bridge can be repaired. It requires the right engineers, the right materials, and the collective will to build it. The materials are our unwavering demand for transparency. The engineers are our most competent sons and daughters, ready to serve. The will is the fire that burns in every Nigerian who knows that we deserve better. The dream is not lost. It is simply waiting for us to be led well. Let us stop waiting for a leader to emerge from the crowd. Let us become the leaders in our communities, in our professions, in our demand for accountability that will foster that change. The waiting, it's over. Let's get to work. I thank you for listening. I thank you for having me.
Thank you, Hector. And also thank you for getting us back on track by being very concise with your wonderful presentation. Indeed, somebody just sent a message here. The tale of two Nigerians was both inspiring and saddening at once. Thank you, Hector. Another comment, the conversation so far, most enlightening. The speakers, I say thank you. The first question goes to Dame Elizabeth Agu. And this question is this. You gave a wonderful explanation. Do you believe that Mekaria has to be promoted through institutional procedures, or is this something to be cultivated only through community? I'll ask it again. Did you hear that? Let me repeat that. Yes. Because I took you unawares. Yeah. Do you believe that Mekaria has to be promoted through institutional procedures, or is it something to be cultivated only through the community?
I would definitely say both.
Okay.
I mean, it can be introduced in the universities, even from primary school. You know, we can reduce it to a level where a primary school brain can know the importance of purposeful excellence, know the importance of living whatever they're doing better, and then also at the community level. Yeah, I will say to the two-pronged method would be better. I will not limit it to either institutional or communities. I will say both.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, I'll say to the audience, please use the Q&A feature to ask your questions. A second question, actually, Dame, to you as well. And this question is, do you think Nigeria should promote and protect itself as a priority rather than engaging with other actors and hoping to develop through that? I'll repeat that question.
Okay.
Do you think that Nigeria should promote and protect itself as a priority rather than engaging with other actors and hoping to develop through that? Dame Elizabeth.
You know, the thing about protection and protecting yourself is that you can become isolated. Yeah. I always believe in reaching out to other people so that you can even benchmark what you're doing. But while you're doing it, you also guide your heart, like the Bible said, you know, so that you not be exposed to the evils of the world. So Nigeria can actually engage others, but with caution. That's what I will suggest.
Thank you very much. Okay. The next question is to Suraj. I hope Suraj is listening. And this question is, it's true, we will put in place measures to have a more representative system, but it will be perverted by the class that is grasping onto power and onto capital. What kind of reform will allow us to actually have a reform that is not diverted and where intention actually translates into outcomes, to use Dame Elizabeth's words. Suraj, I don't know if you heard that.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me?
No, Suraj. The question was actually to Suraj. But I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear him.
Yes. Sorry, can you hear me?
Okay, Suraj, don't worry. I'll take the question again let me take the question again.
Okay.
You heard that?
Go ahead.
You heard the question, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. It is true that we will put in place measures to have a more representative system, but it will be perverted by the class that is grasping onto power and capital. What kind of reform will allow us to actually have a reform that is not diverted and where intention actually translates into outcomes?
Thank you. Exactly that was my point from my brief presentation. And yes, it is now time to look at how do we take the real proper action and measure to mitigate this. And this is where we need to put the horse before the cart and not the cart before the horse. So in terms of where we have our constituencies and our different associations, so we all belong to professional associations. And I've seen how ethics have been completely eroded in all the professional associations, and very few of them without exceptions. In doctors, that's where you see fake medical reports in going to doctors. In the legal profession, you see lawyers. Actually, I mean, many of us saw the embarrassment that we faced as Nigerians with what happened to Chief Michael Zekume, who actually went to London to disgrace everything that is about Nigeria, about our institutional system, about our passports, and also about our dignity and integrity as a people in the bid to just acquire illegally what was actually also another proceeds of crime. So we need to go back to our grassroots and our different constituencies to uphold the professional ethics and make sure that sanctions prevail within that system. We need to go back to our homes and also ensure that we begin the charity from home. It is not just sufficient where we have children that are coming home with resources that we cannot actually attribute to any form of work. It is not sufficient for many of the parents to be buying exam questions and answers for children before they get to class to go and do the exams. It is not sufficient for us to say, because it is my own person, once he does is wrong, then it should be allowed to go, and I'm only able to speak up when it is that against the other person. We have to actually imbibe that culture of beginning the charity from home, and that is only when we can build the citizens that will become leaders. And we can see how some of these things are happening. Look at the election in America that just held this last week, and you can see how the people spoke up against even the president and the party of the president. This is the kind of thing. Nobody needs to go and even talk to them. They understand it. They waited for that election.
Thank you.
You can see
it
all around everywhere.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for your detailed answer to that question. I have two more questions, and I think I'll limit it to just these last two questions, so I'll have enough time to wrap up. The fourth question is to Professor Paramalam. Prof, regarding the constitutional review / overhaul, how could we concretely grant security to ethnic and other minorities, security and fair electoral rights stroke access? Additionally, the comments on devolution, though I vehemently agree, I wonder how we will also create a checks and balances system that will keep devolved powers in check and accountable. I would love all speakers' view on this, not just Professor Fumi. Thank you so much. Prof, starting with you.
Fantastic question and very important. Let me begin with the one of security, and that's a top burning issue right now. What we have recommended at the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, and I have even been in other platforms where we have done studies on what would promote our security. Nigeria is the only federal country in the world that does not have state police, that has only a centralized police system. Nigeria is the only country. Check it out. We need community, we need policing to go right down to the community level. We need to set up a community policing system as well as a local government authority policing system, as well as state with various levels of deployment and authority. One good example is India. If you study the Indian system of policing, it's not perfect, it's far from perfect. But what they've done is that they've made policing to be something that has people oversight and that is responsive to the people and is embedded in the people's communities and context. That is one thing that will promote community among us, promote security. The second question has to do with devolution of powers. And this also responds to something that Siraju had mentioned earlier about, the fact that devolution, has its own pitfalls, and I agree with him. But we did a study in NIPS I think it was in 2022 or 23, and it was on local governance. And what we found was that when you make each local government a productive base, you strengthen the productive capacity, so that we are talking not about resource allocation, we are talking about wealth creation. It's not about sharing the national cake, but it's about positioning each local government area to be part of baking the national cake, so that, when we did a resource mapping of Nigeria, we found out that there's no local government in Nigeria that doesn't have a huge contingent of natural resources that can be tapped, that can be used to create industry, so that every local government becomes a viable entity on its own, in its own right. And so in such a case, that self-sufficiency will be used to fund services, public service delivery, and also make sure that the issue of checks and balances is well catered for, especially when you have a multiplicity of agents and actors who are part and parcel of local governance at the local government level. I'll just stop there so others can talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Actually, that question had invited other speakers to comment, but because of time, I think I'm going to restrict it to what you said, and you also did brilliantly in taking that question. I said I was going to ask one further question, but another one came in, so let me just try and see if I can fit in both. This one is to Hector. Did the failure of various Nigerian development plans stem directly from corruption, or is it also tied to broader political, economic, and social factors? Hector.
Yeah, clearly it stems from a multiplicity of factors, not just corruption, but indiscipline, poor structural, poor governance structure. When you have a situation where there is no continuity in governance, you have new kids on the block who want to leave their own mark. There's a tendency to deviate from development plans. People want to do their own thing, as it were. There are quite a number of factors responsible for failures of development plans. It can't be limited to just corruption. It also speaks to a poor federal structure where people who, not just a poor federal structure, I think Prof alluded to it, Professor Fumi alluded to it, where she talked about the lack of leadership developments, where people are not trained, to even function in leadership. So when people come into office, they don't know what is expected of them. There's a tendency to want to recreate the wheel, and that leaves all of us in a lurch. I think you had repeatedly alluded to time limitations. So I'd like to stop there so far.
Thank you so much, Hector. And I appreciate the fact that you were very sensitive to the time constraint we have. Final question. This one is to Suraj. It's from the audience. Thank you for your intervention. do you think this is a problem affecting only Nigeria? What are the broader causes? Or is it a broader problem affecting other African nations? I'll take it again, because it looks to me like there's something missing, but maybe you cannot work out what they're trying to ask. Mr. Suraju, thank you for your intervention. Do you think this is a problem affecting only Nigeria? What are the causes, or is it a broader problem affecting other African nations? I'm sure you probably know where the question is driving there.
Yeah, I think there's some of these problems that are actually bedeviling the whole of Africa as a whole in terms of how we're also seriously losing some of our cultural heritage, and also the fact that we have quite a number of the absence of leadership or genuine leadership, I can say, and we've seen the seat-tight mentality, which is also turning some of the political system into an hegemonic system where you would see the president leaving and then also the son or the daughter or the rest of them going to be the successor. And we're actually having that in Nigeria. So you will see a governor where the son is the chief of staff, or the son will become speaker of the House of Reps, and you will see the husband to the daughter becoming a member of the parliament. But in terms of the level of the crisis, the debt is worse in Nigeria. And Nigeria is actually also like a beacon for many of them in terms of either you're talking about positive or even the negative aspect of this. And that is why you would see that Nigeria also has about the highest amount of illicit assets in many of these countries of destination when you talk about corruption. What you would hear about corruption in terms of even in South Africa, where you will see ministers being prosecuted over 500,000, 50,000. And Nigeria is talking about 50 billion, including civil servants and politicians. And it is not only, and I don't want to believe it's an African thing, it's just what we've chosen to be as individuals. And this is not where we actually came from. And this is not where we're supposed to be. And I would not join those who would make it an isolated problem with Africa, because we have so many conspiracies, collaboration, and even many times encouragement from the foreign, partners, invaders, and also business entrepreneurs who encourages many of the things. So it is not only just an African, but we need to look at our own peculiar context in order to be able to respond to it and ensure that we find a solution that is actually entrenched within our system and not the foreign one that would not work effectively to deal with the issues.
Thank you. Thank you, Suraj. I think with this, we'll bring this session, the question and answer, to a halt. And but I have to also mention the comments from Dame Elizabeth Algood that just came in about her belief in state police. She believes it should be done. In the long term, it will give the right results. Yes, that's one argument. People like me actually are worried about state police, because if you know what our governors can do to their political opponents, part of the fear is that they may use it to hound their opponents. But in a place like Nigeria, where governance structures, the institutions are quite weak, the whims and caprices of whoever is at the top, that can be a worry. But overall, maybe an advantage of having the state police, like we've heard from Prof and now from Dame Elizabeth. Thank you so much for all of that. I'm going to begin to wind down now, or wind up, by calling on our speakers to wrap up their viewpoint in 1 minute. I was going to allow 2 minutes, but because we've eaten so deep into our injury time, let me begin with our wonderful patron, Collins Mweke, to give us his summary in just 1 minute. I hope the patron is still available.
Absolutely.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so very much, Chief Etiaba. You have done exceptionally well in coordinating, this session, particularly the time factor. I know that people like me, would fail woefully in doing this because of, inability to handle the timing as efficiently as you have done. So I want to start from there. Now, I'm not going to waste our time, praising the speakers one after the other. I will simply say that your choice as a speaker, you have simply proven that, it was the right choice. You all exceeded expectation. Your, your interventions were very, very, insightful. And, from the remarks we have seen in the comment section, you have done justice to the topics given to you. Now, there are two other individuals I want to, single out to actually doff my hat for. The first is the CEO of the AfrikaFora, Mrs. Winifred Oloaku Gayat, who has actually, put her feet down, made sacrifices, faced challenges to, be bringing us this event. Some of us simply line up behind her, guiding her with counsel, making suggestions and so on and so forth. But she's been the one driving this, and I, really want to thank her from the bottom of my heart. Crystal also is, has been an unsung hero of the AfrikaFora. She prefers taking the back seat, after coordinating all of this. But I also want to thank her very well. And to the rest of the team behind the scene, thank you, and thank you so very much for, the participants. We appreciate you. The AfrikaFora wouldn't be here without you. So please, let's keep coming back. Thank you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, our great patron. As you say, thank you. We're also thanking you for the great works you guys do at the fora. Next will be Dame Elizabeth Ago. Your final thoughts, ma.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My final thought is on where do we go from here? Are we going to continue being an alibi culture where we perfect excuses for our failures? Are we going to line up behind being agency culture where we confront our failure? We're not perfect. But instead of explaining it away, we can confront it, learn from it, and design solutions. And I want to add something on state police quickly. Imagine if state police was in Nigeria at the very local level. Two kids are in primary school, and this person's father is a policeman, and he stops your dad on the way trying to collect money from him or asking him bribe for bail or whatever they do. And then the dad tells the daughter, in the school, the other one will not be able to look the other person in the face. That is really what state police is, where you're held accountable in your own community. So state police, in the long run, that's why I said in the short run, it might not help Nigeria, but in the long run, it definitely will. I thank you all.
Thank you, Dame Elizabeth, and thank you for a good wrap-up. I will now have to call on Mr. Hector Ibukuogo to give us his final thoughts.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. I'd say Nigeria has quite a reputation, has earned quite a reputation globally for all the wrong reasons. And it goes to reason that this reputation has been accentuated by the lack of good leadership, which has characterized the country's journey as a nation state. Now, however, it's important to note that all hope is not lost. I believe that every person, group, or state is a victim or beneficiary of their experiences. Clearly, as far as experience goes, Nigeria has quite a rich experience, both negative and positive. It is therefore inevitable that as Nigeria reels from the shock and displacements occasioned by its negative experiences, she equally stands to benefit from the lessons learned. Nigeria also has a very young and enterprising citizenry, very hungry for change. We all saw that in the last presidential election, when you had the obedient movement disrupt the space. Now, they're so hungry for change that they can't wait to see it happen. It is also noteworthy that unlike her contemporaries, Nigerian citizenry has a unique character driven by excellence, and this is despite a concerted effort by a combination of factors to paint the Nigerian black. From the academia to sports and entertainment, Nigerians have distinguished themselves globally and continue to stand out. It is therefore inevitable that these unique attributes of the Nigerian character would find expression in governance. It's only a matter of time. I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Hector, my brother. That was a good one. Thank you. Appreciate it. Onowu, I don't know if Onowu is still with us. Dr. Nwachukwu Anakwenze. Onowu, I think you're there, but
Yes.
your microphone. Yes, you need to unmute. Yes. Go ahead, sir.
Yes.
You're just in a minute.
There's been a good conference. Like I've said, Nigeria has the great potential. We are the senior man in the African family. We need to wake up from sleep and take our proper position. We're the one that's supposed to be sitting in the United Nations representing other black people. We're the majority group in the world. So we need to improve our security. I heard you talk about everything, but I didn't hear too much about security. Security is keeping a lot of people out from investing. People need to go back home and start investing. I have more than 10 farming companies, and it's making a lot of difference in helping our young people. People who are outside need to invest at home. You don't need to be running away. I'm doing well. I'm making a lot of rice. I'm making a lot of agricultural products. So you all should come back and invest, and then push for the change that we want. Nigerian people are brilliant. It's just the thieves and the thief and the chop people that are running the country. That's the problem. We cannot leave that to other people. You also cannot leave Nigeria to some people who think they own Nigeria and that other people are supposed to be their slaves. It's happening today. And that must stop. We must stop it. We have to get back and do that. I ran for presidency last time under PDP. But when I got there, instead of talking about issues, they're not interested in hearing about what you're saying. It's all about distributing money. Ghana must go back. They go to the hotel rooms and share $25,000 per delegate. That's where they are. We have to change that about ideas, like all this way you are talking. That's what is needed. That's not where they are. I wish that Nigerians can be listening to what you're saying. It's all about sharing money, paying for your hotel, paying for your airfare, paying for your food, and giving you a bag of $25,000 per delegate. That's the kind of campaign they have. Okay, I will stop here. Thank you.
Onowu, thank you so much, and I'm privileged to let the audience know that you're Okalamad Okalamwa too. Half man, half spirit. They didn't get to see that bit of it
Thank
today.
you.
Okay, Suraj Alarawaju, my brother, just to wrap up in a minute.
Thank you very much. And I also want to join in appreciating, the organizers, the conveners, and the planners behind this very important gathering, and also learning, not just for those of us who are speaking, but also learning from us, but also learning from each other, and also from some of the questions that were asked. And I think this is more of the things that we really need. It is introspection for all of us to start, asking this question within ourselves. where am I also contributing to the problem? It is not just to point the fingers, and just like my people would say, when you point one finger at another person, the other four would be pointing at you. So it's important to start also having this reflection. We can't, as long as we're still within the same system, either we're thriving or otherwise, we can't also totally be absorbed. And that is why the moment you present your green passport outside Nigeria, very rare people would ask you whether you're Yoruba, Igbo, or Hausa. You're just seen as a Nigerian, and that is how you are assessed and also how you are treated. So we have this duty to start the work from within and try to see how we wake ourselves up from the slumber. It is not just dreaming anymore, like I said. Some have gone into coma and some are in that slumber. We need to wake up from that dream and make some of those warnings, some of those alerts, some of those admonitions, actually bring them to reality. And it's a duty for all of us. To change the system, we're not going to bring foreigners. It has to be those of us that are Nigerians, either in Nigeria or in diaspora. I thank you very much, and I congratulate the organizers on this successful outing that we've just had today. Thank you very much. And to the moderator, you've done an excellent job. You deserve all.
Thank you, Suraj. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Thank you so much, my brother. The last, but by no means the least, in any way, shape, or form, Professor Fumi Paramalam, can you please wrap up in a minute?
Thank you very much, Chief Ben. My last word: nation building rises and falls on the crest of leadership, and I think we've established that here. But even the most effective leadership will not work without a good governance framework. How we create that good governance framework is a collective responsibility. It's not just about the leaders. And I think this calls for an organic national conversation. I say organic because it cannot be a couple of elites gathered in Abuja talking about going forward. It has to start at the villages, at the communities, at the wards, people talking about what kind of Nigeria we desire. It has to be about us interrogating critically the worldviews that have brought us to where we are and how we can collectively reimagine and recreate the Nigeria of our dreams. I believe only then can we move forward into a Nigeria that is where governance is inclusive of men, women, youth, people with disabilities, ethnic minorities, and all and sundry. Thank you very much to the organizers, and I'm so happy that I've been here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. Actually, your comments, your words are quite mutual. It's been so enjoyable being a part of this event, because I've been monitoring actually the audience participation all through this process. We've not lost any audience, and that's because of the quality of the speakers, the quality of the delivery, and the content. I am so grateful to all of you. Before I conclude and bring this event to a halt, it will be my honor, my privilege to ask the CEO and founder of the AfrikaFora to unmute her microphone and then come and give us her thoughts and summarize the conference before I speak to bring events to a halt. Winifred Uluaku Gellert, it is your turn. We need to hear what you think of what's happened today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for giving us your time, for the brainstorming. I'm just short of words, I'm short of words. The comments in the comment section explains the emotion. The quality of your discussions is just beyond words. I thank you so very much, our distinguished speakers. Thank you so very much. Our patron, our chairman, we thank you so very much for your unflinching support and presence, the commitment to all the things we're doing. We thank you so much. Our esteemed audience, we cannot have this event without you. It's just like the speakers. I mean, there can be speakers without attendees. There can be attendees without speakers. It's just a teamwork. And then to our politicians, I mean, I don't know what to say. Everybody said it here. It's just We keep saying it, but we won't be tired of repeating. We're still going to repeat. I mean, everywhere you turn to, you hear everybody say Africa is the future. This is Africa's time. But when you come to the continent, when you look at the continent, there's nothing that shows that optimism. And you ask yourself, why? What is it that is lacking? You know, like the Professor Paramalam said, talked about the quota of women in politics. It's like the youth, you know. She mentioned the quota of youth in politics. It's only when you come to business they tell you, well, Nigeria is the country where you have greater number of women in business. When you come to where decision making, where the difference is made, there is no room for women. There is no room for the youth. You know, the youths are not considered. And we have brains. I mean, I think this is the only event that we did not present inventors and innovators. And they're all youths. When you look at what's happening in Africa, you look at what's happening in Nigeria amongst our youth. I mean, you ask yourself, the people in power, do they see what we see? Are we living in the same country? Because if they see the promises in the youth or in the women, I mean, they should make room for everybody. Onowu Regent just talked about distributing of wealth. This is just what this is all about. Corruption, just like one of our speakers, I think is Hector said, is not an African thing. It's not a Nigerian thing. But it's just that when it comes to Nigeria and Africa, the level is beyond words. You know, like, I mean, I can talk about what's happening in France. A former French president is in prison as we speak. It can never happen in Nigeria. A former president in prison just for receiving funds from outside France. Nigerians are proud, telling you, I mean, you just ask yourself, are we in the same world? So, I mean, it's just, we have to keep talking. It's not just about talk. This should not end with talk. Just like our patron said, this is a workshop. And we're going to get to that level. That's what I'm just asking you now. When we call you to do the walk the talk level, please, we would appreciate it that you're present, because it's not just about talking. It's not about condemning. We are all Nigerians. We're all part of the corruption. We're all part of the system. There's nobody born. There's nothing called, I mean, a Nigerian is a person, you know. So it is all of us that's going to work together, and we have the stage that we call the walk the talk. We really would appreciate that you'll be available for us, even if it's not, I mean, we're not going to take your time because we know you're very busy people, but we have that stage and we'll appreciate that you accompany us in that stage. Before I close, I'm overwhelmed, really. I don't know how to express what I feel. At every of our events, it's always the same thing. And I thank our attendees, because the appreciation shows the quality of what we bring out every time. But now I would like really for us to think about our sisters and our brothers in the Caribbean who are suffering the effects or the backlash of the Hurricane Melissa, especially in Jamaica. We should really hope to go beyond that minute of silence. We really have to stretch out our hands of brotherhood or friendship or sisterhood, whatever we call it. That's the kind of Africa we want, an Africa where we stand for, or we stand with one another, no matter what they're going through. You know, we should go through it together. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for making this possible. Thank you to our distinguished speakers, our distinguished patron, our distinguished chairman. And oh no, I thank you so very much. I'm sorry, we were running late, so we had to continue. The time didn't permit us to wait for you for the breaking of kola nuts, and our honorable chairman did a very good job standing in for you. I really thank you for your presence. I know you were in South Africa, where you trotted back to Nigeria, and I think you're right now in America. I think maybe you got back yesterday. I don't know. I thank you for making time to show your presence. Thank you so very much, sir. Honorable, our distinguished audience, thank you so very much for being with us. Thank you. Our Honorable Chairman, we're back to you, sir. Chief Etiaba, you're muted. Thank you.
All right. I don't even know who muted me. The minute silence you called for while I was trying to unmute, I think let's accept that to have been taken. Thank you so much. All I can say, because of time, is that all the points have been canvassed by the experts we have. Just join in saying thank you to all of you. And my final words will be this: let us all build the new Nigeria of our dreams. Thank you so much. And with those words, I'll bring this conference to a close. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you to the AfrikaFora and to all of us that took part in it, all the participants. Thank you. Until next time.
Thank you to my
Bye-bye.
team. Thank you to my family, my team, my family. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye,
Good night,
everyone.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I drive my home, my pride, my pain. I'm on Niger, we still dey pray. Them promise light, we still dey talk. Oh. The talk say change, but it still be talk. Oh. Every 4 years, now the same old story. Them they chop life, we dey beg for glory. Them drive Benz, we dey trek for road. Then they abroad, we dey find our boat. Mama they cry, pikin no go school. Still them they dance for campaign too. Oh. Who go save Nigeria? Now who go tell the truth? Tell me who. We don't tire for suffer, tire for life. Still we rise, still we try. The anybody, my people try. Oh, Danny make all the money, let's make it better. Niger no because we get blessing inside, but governors they hide them for backside. Man. We dey hustle, we dey grind non-stop, but them they block them from the top. All your money vanish, you go talk. EFCC go still chop up. Them they play us like film for Netflix. Then they preach love, but he on our politics. We get gold, we get youth, we get mind, but then they fear when we speak our mind. Who go save Nigeria? Now who go down the truth? We don't tire for suffer, tire for life. Still we rise, still we try. The anybody, my people try. Can we make all the money? Let's make it better. Niger no because we get blessing inside, but governors they hide them for backside. Obumbe nige siku.